I'm Max Brantley with the Arkansas Times on Thursday, December the 3rd. Yesterday I said there was news coming on the public corruption front in Arkansas. It happened late last night. Didn't have the news until today. There was a federal indictment last night, 6-count indictment of bribery charges against Ted Sewell of Warm Springs, Arkansas, up in Randolph County. He's made tens of millions of dollars over the years in Arkansas running an inpatient treatment center for troubled youth at Warm Springs, the Lord's Ranch, now called Trinity Behavioral, and also outpatient counseling clinics at a number of cities around Arkansas under the Maxis umbrella. He allegedly paid bribes to a former West Memphis city councilman and to a former state legislator and Department of Human Services executive, Steve Jones, in return for information and help in getting business for his organization through DHS. He was a longtime close supporter of Mike Huckabee. He's given tens of thousands of dollars to Arkansas politicians. I have good information that he's hired at least one high-profile politician in his past for legal work. He's had his fingers deep in the Arkansas body politic. Today he faces a federal indictment along with 2 other people who've already pleaded guilty to paying him money. There were nobody else mentioned, but this is part of an ongoing public corruption investigation in Arkansas that has produced an unrelated indictment of a circuit judge for taking money to throw a civil case against a nursing home in his court in Faulkner County. There are strong indications that other public officials remain under scrutiny as a part of this public corruption investigation that's largely being carried out by specialists who were sent in from New York for the purpose. There are a lot of nervous people in Arkansas today and in the political world. There should be, and perhaps this will produce some worthwhile changes in the days ahead. Circuit Judge Wendell Griffin today issued an order that said the state must produce by noon tomorrow information about where it got drugs that it intends to use in the lethal injection process. Inmates want to know about the source of the drugs, whether they're reliable, and whether they can be a painless process of execution under the 3-drug protocol that the state plans. The state had objected to providing this information. The state legislature passed a law in 2015 to keep this information secret. The judge said that broke a contract the inmates had and in a court settlement of an earlier lawsuit. They said it was unconstitutional to make this information private. And he said also that there needs to be a trial on whether the use of this drug cocktail amounts to cruel and unusual punishment. There's a paralytic drug that's used that is not an anesthetic. You can be in silent suffering during the course of the execution process, according to some experts. So that will continue. I reported this morning of an interesting fact. The Arkansas Secretary of State is a job that looks after the Capitol, files business records, oversees election laws. Well, it turns out Mark Martin, our current Secretary of State, views this as a job akin to Secretary of State of the United States, a job that should have a key role in international relations between the state of Arkansas and the rest of the world. He took a trade mission recently to Ghana, and it was not simply because he had a personal interest and had been to Ghana before. His office tells me at some length, and you can read it on my blog today, about the importance that Martin thinks the Secretary of State can be in increasing international business with Arkansas through the Secretary of State's office. I think this is a grandiose idea. It's not provided in the Constitution of Arkansas or the statutes, but Mark Martin's going to try, and you're going to get to pay for it. You paid for his trip to Ghana a couple of weeks ago, if that makes you feel any better. More reading for you on the Arkansas blog today. That's arkansasblog.com about Miami's efforts to do something about a high-speed roadway through the middle of town to try and restore the Little Havana neighborhood and make it more conducive to people rather than cars. This is yet another city in the growing list that has decided big freeways with many lanes are not the way to create a better city. The Arkansas Highway Department thinks that what Little Rock needs is still more lanes of concrete through the center of Little Rock, but Arkansas tends to be behind the times in most things, and in highways it's not much different. After we taped this episode yesterday, of course, a terrible news story broke out in California. 14 people were killed. More than a dozen others were injured, many seriously, by shooters in a county building in San Bernardino, California. We now know that a young couple of Pakistani descent, but U.S. citizens, in the case of the husband, did the killing. They were related to the people that they shot, but there's evidence that he had been radicalized and that they'd been preparing some kind of violent act for some time. They were Muslims. That obviously is going to become an issue. I think guns, again, become an issue. The president today talked about the need, if not to make guns impossible, to get harder to get, and that seems common sense. I think we ought to do some scientific research about what kind of problems guns cause and whether anything can be done about it. These are things that the NRA has fought. They seem like common sense steps, at least toward, if not a final solution to gun problems, at least some steps in the right direction. needless to say, the gun lobby doesn't respond to it that way. There have been some interesting responses to the reflexive intonation of the words thoughts and prayers on the occasion of terrible deaths. The New York Daily News ran an interesting front page today that said, God isn't fixing this, perhaps somebody else needs to make a stab at it. There are no easy solutions. It's a difficult time in California, and there's much yet to be learned, but we're not moving on the road to progress in America now, and our threats are not only abroad, but also within the borders, clearly. I'm Max Brantley. I'll be back tomorrow.
You feel it in your heart, the spirit of Little Rock. We've had that spirit since 1927, helping build our city by producing decades of leaders in the heart of our state. We are the heart of business and innovation, the heart of politics and government, the heart of arts and culture, and in our city beats the heart of a Trojan. UALR, we are Little Rock's team and Little Rock's University.